told differently by the applicant that wasn't the case.
The applicant is.
Yeah, but the lease is very clear that the school is exclusive use. In the memorandum of lease, which you can find on address underneath the block and lot where the where the school is located.
And I think we'll share the new resolution, even though, and we'll share it with the OCM, but we have missed the deadline on that. But if anybody would like to, would anybody on the committee? Sorry. What? I think since it's on the agenda, the committee and the public, I think, should still be able to comment if they so choose.
Okay. It's on the floor of this resolution. Does anybody on the committee would like to ask a question from our committee? No. Then I go to the public. Is anyone here? Applicant?
Hi.
Just state your name. So go
Rachel Katz. Thank you for having me back, and I appreciate our in touch. Yeah, no, I got the sense that this wasn't an appropriate match in the appropriate place, given the concerns and the findings. But I did want to present another opportunity on Bleecker Street. And I would like to present the letter I have from Matt Guitars, which is located at 273 Bleecker, which is a little bit further down Cornelia. Matt happens to be a family friend of ours. My husband Josh is here, and he would be willing to work with us to put a storefront on the bottom floor. So I present that, knowing that he's a bit of an institution and someone who's been around a long time in this neighborhood. So that's it. Thank you. Can I present the letter to you guys? Yeah, sure.
Repeat the address.
73
Secure Bar, right next to Katz.
273 Bleecker Street.
I have a question. Are we asking questions?
Are questions from the committee?
Well, so there's a church. The neighborhood church of Greenwich Village or the village. Like just one store, and I checked today. That's a K4 church synagogue designated building, which is, I believe, less than 200 feet. And we, in fact, spoke to Jeff today, and we did relay that information.
Sorry, Jeff is okay.
Is he not your attorney?
Jeff, I didn't know him.
So, that may be an issue. Just
So
proximity and also the school. Carter, do you want to speak to
Yeah, I
the
was
school?
gonna say, the school is still within 500.
Yeah.
The
I
lease.
think it's like 480 something.
What's that?
440.
440.
423 to 440.
Okay.
Nevertheless, it's still within 500 feet, because it's a corner location. I mean, you can have your attorney, you can review the memorandum of lease, it's very clear. That's an exclusive use of the school, it's a demised building, it's a separate building, there are multiple buildings. But that's not the exclusionary factor. The exclusionary factor is that it is exclusive to the school. And the lease.
Which building are we talking about? The Great Oaks?
The Great Oaks. And that's what the lease is very clear, that they have control of a very specific area. They label as a school.
No, that I'm aware. And when I saw it was under 500, I thought, I don't know if there isn't any room for working together in the interest of, trying to be part of this community and to know if this is an opportunity together. I also know that Matt is like really willing to be part of this. I don't know if that means anything to this community, as you guys are longstanding, deeply connected space, and I respect that totally. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I was just going to say, you can speak with your attorney, right? Because it's not a super clear guidance, but a lot of this is limited from liquor licensing law, remote exceptions, due distance requirements,
Even if it's like
statutory requirements, the school it's not something that can be waived. It either applies or it doesn't, which is why I had said before, rising. It's,
As far as the church next door, Village Community, I actually have a letter from the pastor, Nick, from the last visit I had, where I introduced myself and we connected, and he said that it's only used by NYU students for non-worshiping needs. So I don't know if, I believe you guys have the letter still there.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So the building designation is K4, which is church synagogue. So that would be the first hurdle. Secondly, when I called the church today, they said, you can catch us here any day, Monday through Saturday. Our Sunday services have grown too big for our space, so we do those off-site, but we are there 7 days a week. And it appears they have the whole building. So you have every right to give notice for that location if you so choose. Our job is only to flag potential issues, since we can't vet that location at this meeting, since no notice has been given for that location and no questionnaire has been submitted. Something you have to decide on your own, but
If I could just ask a more general question going forward, is weaker between 6 and 7 something that you all do not wish to have a legal cannabis spot in?
not at all. I mean, no, that is not.
As long as it's 500 past
Just want
501, it's good.
And we want suitable spaces and cannabis dispensaries and cannabis businesses suitable for whatever location they choose, and of course to be state compliant. Which unfortunately, in our eyes, both of the locations you presented to date are not.
Including Matt's location. God,
That's location is 420 to 4.
what a shame that is. It's such a unique and
And it's move-in ready.
It's
I
so
went by
much-
yesterday.
it's what?
It's move-in ready.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
to go.
Ron
And
left
he's so
everything
down
up.
with it and is so ready to collaborate in a meaningful way that I think would really be something that the locals could celebrate in a nostalgic way even. I feel that way, getting old, but I just it feels a little like no room, so.
It's not up to us. It's up to the OCM. You still have every right to submit that location.
Okay, but
There's no mechanism for public convenience yet. They're working on it. Maybe one day they'll be able to offer waivers on the 500-foot rule or the 200-foot rule, but that does not exist yet.
okay, did you know offhand what somebody said it was for something, or did you?
It's, by my count, it was 423, 440, but that is information you need to verify independently. I'm not
Okay,
all right.
thank you all for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Moving on, I'm going to call our first. Oh, is anyone here for the other two applications? I think Jackie was here.
present.
Okay, wonderful. And the other. And High Profile Holding is here, I see, right?
Here.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna call High Profile Holdings LLC, 388 West Street, Dorian, Harrington.
Guys and friends. Right here.
Okay, you have to come closer because we don't being recorded, so these two people are.
Oh, I have it printed out, I don't know if you want me to. If it's necessary to put it over the screen, but it is a certificate of occupancy. Yeah.
Is it right here?
Thanks.
But.
Like, there it is.
All right, before it's a slide presentation of the space.
Yeah, we have a few, basic overview. I mean, we can watch it if you want. If not, we can just talk through it, whatever you prefer.
Let me just, run over the stats of the, application.
Sure.
All right, you wanna watch it? Okay, okay, go ahead.
We'll just make it very, very quick.
Yeah, we'll just jump right into it. We don't even need to go through page by page. I mean, the presentation itself kind of gives a basic overview of the people and the site layout and a little bit on security and
You go to page 2, sir.
a bit on our past performance, but essentially we're a local company who has applied in this most recent round.
Did you give your name? I didn't get it.
No, sorry, Fred Pulsino. And I'm Dorian's partner and just advisor, and we've been working collaboratively for a couple of years and just, I come out of government, so I've got a little bit of an understanding on navigating this process and just trying to be helpful to this group. So, they put in a solid application a few weeks ago in the most recent procurement rounds for adult use retail. And they've secured site control at 388 West Street, which is a great location for adult use cannabis. It's kind of off the beaten path a little bit. It borders the West Side Highway. So we meet all the state criteria. You know, we're not near a house of worship, school, really no issues there. So I think we're hoping to garner, of course, a community support because from a real property perspective, we think it's pretty good. Wouldn't cause any issues. And the good news is we found ourselves on a pretty good number within the queue. You know, the state released their queue, their order of applicants that they're going to start to grade. And we have a pretty good position. We have a position where we think that the state will get to us and we'll turn around whatever we need to. And so we feel pretty confident that we can win, get approved. So we're moving full steam ahead. You know, we've got, as you can see, the site control fully lined up, no issues there. Landlord is okay with cannabis. Dorian's lived here his whole life. I mean, we really are an example of a local organization that was put together specifically for this. So it's not like folks coming in from outside the community, from other markets and other industries. Been here for a very long time. So
Go to the next slide.
the Flowery is the brand, you know, we're considering utilizing. You know,
Okay.
they've got a great program and they understand everything from technology to products and, you know, it's not just a store, it's a complicated store. In cannabis, you know, we don't own our supply. So there are a lot of issues with price points and just it's a high overhead. And so teaming with really great operators has been helpful so far and just kind of making sure that we don't learn the hard way on certain issues that could just really hurt the business. But, you know, we plan on hiring locally, of course. I mean, that only makes sense for 1,000 reasons. So we just want to work with the community, Department of Labor, the community board, other job posting platforms, things like that, and really just target this neighborhood for jobs. You know, we're gonna have everything from bud tenders to security to other sort of concierge services. We need people who understand technology, you know, a lot of consumer interfacing there. You know, we don't expect people congregating, you know, there's no smoking, there's no consumption at the property. So it's gonna run like a retail store, we're just in and out. We'll have people to help move people along, but we don't expect there to be, you know, consumption out front and things like that.
Next, please.
It doesn't help our business. So yeah, local group here, as you can see.
Next. Next, please.
State mandates what we do for security. So every square inch is covered by cameras and monitored all the time. We'll have physical security on site also, primarily to act as a deterrent. Like, we don't anticipate there being major issues, not like the illegal stores. We don't keep product up front, you know, the product stored safely in the back. So, you know, we think between combination of like physical security and tech, it's enough of a deterrent to keep people away.
Currently in discussions with Ken, Securities, yes. Next, please.
So we come from the industry, we know products. It's not all about smoking, you know, it's about edibles, and gummies, and tinctures, and other things that bring holistic care to people. So it's, we're used to making products like that. We know quality. It's all lab tested, obviously. It all comes from the New York supply chain.
Next, please.
Yeah, we also wanted to provide you with the material we put in the application with LPA. We're in compliance. When we hear back from the state, hopefully that's just gonna be them telling us to go get our fingerprints. We don't anticipate any TPI issues or any deficiencies. If there are, we'll turn it around instantly.
Next piece.
And we might answer any questions, of course. Yeah, that which brings to the question, is always good questions, so just- we're open book, fire away.
Question. Hi, so, I'm just curious about the exact like nature of the relationship with the flowery. So are they essentially just franchising out their name or licensing out their name? Is there any involvement from the flowery in terms of active management of the store or product or anything like that? Or is it purely you're just paying a fee for the name?
I mean, the Flowery has experience running these things, so
Yeah.
it's more of a licensing type scenario, but it's really a relationship where they have, there are locals here in New York who are familiar with the Flowery and they understand the technology and they really have an infrastructure from an operational side. And when you team that with a local component, it makes for a strong company. But there is no like out-of-state Flowery operation coming here and running it. That's not what it is. This organization is run entirely by locals in New York.
Right. But you would be like leveraging their supply chain within New York?
No, we'd have to develop our
Okay.
own supply chain. We know more about New York than they do.
Okay.
Then when I say they, these are people who were born and raised in New York and have been around the country, operating legal businesses, and so they've got an understanding. But no, we on our own have supply relationships, or we're
Right.
talking to the farmers upstate and the processors, and we're not relying on anybody to do that. You know, it's really just, especially things like technology and just sort of that infrastructure, they've been through it as an operation. And so they know what works and what
Right.
doesn't work. And
So you're paying them a fee for that, but they're not going to be a
We-
official owner?
we haven't actually, we haven't determined the fee or anything like that. They're not going to be owners.
Okay.
No, we think that by leveraging and utilizing the Flowery brands, that's going to help draw clientele to the site, of course. I mean, brands are going to rule the cannabis industry, especially when it goes federally legal. It's going to be about who are the brands and the companies that people know. So we think that that's the long-term play for the neighborhood. You know, when federal legalization occurs, the last thing anybody wants is for certain standalone stores to just kind of phase out. So we think that by teaming with a name that people in the industry know, it could bring some cachet and then hopefully it helps, support the long-term viability. But they're people, they're a team. They know they'll advise on ways that we can, things that we can look for local hiring and different
Yeah.
vendors and things like that we can put in place.
So it's basically what's happening in Staten Island. Are they doing the same thing? They're leveraging the brand and the expertise, but they're using, New York people, New York supply chain. And it's a 100% New York based owner.
Similar, each deal is different.
Yeah.
I'm a different entity. I'm a different potential license holder. Me myself, I have tons of relationships with the supply chain cultivators. My own relationships that will be utilized in the business.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair.
You said your name was Fred?
Fred,
Fred, and then how are you affiliated with the Flowery? You're,
I work with the Flowery. I've known him for a while. I've known Dorian for a while here. We've done work together before over the years, and just the nature of this industry is it's coming off the ground. It's a small group. And I've just tried to help primarily social equity operators open the doors, navigate government, navigate the local municipality, make sure paperwork's okay, maybe, just try to play my role. So I have different, partnerships, I suppose. And this is one. Flowery's impressed me as a good operator, and the way that they approach things and the way that they, their New York roots anyway, so.
so you work with them in their other brands, like,
Only New York, I help the New York team a bit.
and what do you know about their operation in Florida, the Florida Medical?
I'm honestly not much. I've never visited it. I know that they have a medical operation,
Yeah,
but I'm not involved in that in any way.
All right.
So I'm sorry, I didn't hear you explain exactly your role in connection to this business.
Yeah.
If they, we're getting fingerprinted, are you gonna be
No,
right on?
no, not we as in
Right,
the
advisor.
ownership.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an advisor.
And so the Flowery has recently opened a branch in Staten Island, and I have to know for a fact they're looking at another space in Staten Island on Bay Street. It's interesting because really, I think the point was to spread the wealth around, right? And it feels like this is an MSO, right? They're now operating in multiple states. They have many, many dispensaries in Florida. And now they're coming into New York and, you know, if this goes through, they then will have 3 stores and who knows how many other deals they have going on. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I can't speak to other deals that they're doing, but I can tell you an infrastructure with a name and a consolidated sort of team that operates a few stores is only a good thing for an operator. You know, I think that there's some benefit there. And I think that, I mean, I wouldn't take anything away from New York license holders. They know what they're looking at. So they have their choice of who to team with once you win a license. And operations and finance is usually the first couple of things that you're thinking about. So when they're out there interviewing people and trying to find partnerships and collaborations, you know, I think the Flowery's emerged as a trusted group of individuals who have a skill set that resonates with New Yorkers that want to work with them. These are not predatory arrangements. These are just, you know, the Flowery opened Staten Island today. Yeah. What do you think?
What are they providing? Goods and services, management? What are they providing to you?
A brand, a flagship brand, so they have a look and feel for their stores, you know, at the, you know, they have their own kind of vibe, I suppose. You know, and just they understand the industry. So I think operational support is really key. You know, I think it's the operational support that helps keep the doors open and makes it so it's a successful business. But I think the fact that they're looking at other projects in New York only shows their investment in New York. And I don't think that that's a down, I don't see a downside. It's the only upside. They're not growing. That's not,
They're a cultivator.
not in New York.
They're a cultivator. Does that not violate vertical integration laws in New York?
No, if they were growing in New York, it would violate they were.
Sure about that?
Well, then they wouldn't have been approved by the OCM in Staten Island. That was the issue.
Is there,
Yeah,
did you, I mean, was there any particular reason you chose this brand? Did you sort of shop around and figured out that this was
Yeah.
best or?
I've known Anthony Capone for a very long time. He's a good friend and I thought we would work well together.
And what's Anthony's role?
Anthony he's another advisor. He's also somebody that's helping to provide financing if we are approved. So he has relationships with investors. I have relationships with investors. I've secured investment here in New York for another cannabis project. So between the both of us, we feel like if we put our forces together, we can establish a successful business.
yeah, I mean, this is a community-driven plan. This is as much of a local situation as you can see. I mean, you see these kinds of applications all over the city from people coming in from other neighborhoods, trying to set up wherever they want to set up. So I think to me, this is a good example of a local team coming together with operators, and they submitted a great application, and now the state's going through it. So
You have another question?
Yeah, I have another question. Is this the same Anthony Capone who's the CEO of Cannabis Brands, Packwood, Los Angeles Cannabis Distribution and Manufacturing Company, Trend House, Los Angeles Snack Brand, Medicated, Not Medicated, Cali Sweets?
I don't know. Honestly, I've never heard of any of those brands. I know that.
Because again, that whole vertical integration thing, even for goods and services, might be an issue.
I mean, we're in accordance with all the state regulations and laws, and they've gone through our application and we've been vetted, and the TPI, if there's an issue, TPI will find out. I mean, New York's done a good job at making sure that people are compliant, and so we follow the regulations carefully. Regulations are a roadmap on how to build business, so I think that's what Dorian's done here. And if
And
the
I
state
own-
disagrees, then they'll disagree, but
Not on high profile, 100%. There's no TPIs on it. So
I have some more questions. How will you finance it? How does he plan to finance this business?
So if he may bring in the finances, or I may bring in finances like I've done in the past. Right now, we haven't figured that out. Again, we just the queue just came out, so we're hoping that we get selected by the state.
you have good options. If you get the provisional, there are options. You can take a loan, that potentially bring in another partner. But I think the key is winning the provisional, seeing how many other stores in the area have won. That'll determine what the value is. Choose the best course.
So you said you have a good number, you're number 817 in the AUQ. And when you remove the micros and the dupes,
I think it's 4 on that.
it's more like 596. There are some cards in there we may have missed, but it's not a super high number. They're only issuing 250 licenses in this round with location. So I just wanted to put that out there.
If they don't get to us, then we live to fight another day in the next round.
So if people do not make this round, if they don't, if they reach 250, the other people don't get provisional, they just get nothing and can apply in a later round, but we do not know when that's going to be.
Sometime this year, they said, yeah, they said when, which could mean whatever it means. Yeah, I mean, we don't know. We know they're gonna go through. We can't, we don't know how many of the first 250 are gonna return the deficiency info quick. If they don't turn around that info quickly, the state's moving on. So for all we know, the state's gonna get the number 800 off that list. We just don't know.
And the state also has to do post selection for 400 cards simultaneously.
Which they'll be hurt by this process, unfortunately.
Wish us luck.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. You know how it is. It's not clean all the time. It's difficult and things change, but we're in to win it.
All right, you presented us with the certificate of occupancy and we pulled the most recent one. You brought it to the meeting. You guys can look at it. It allows for 10 people to occupy the premises at one time. How many customers do you plan to serve at one time? And when do you think you would be able to provide documentation that the occupancy would be increased?
We're gonna need more than 10. And we're gonna work on it right away to increase that.
It's a very old building. I mean,
Yeah,
With that number, you can't even have the 20 staff members on site.
yeah, you had your
Easily.
application that you have.
yeah, we've got a little bit of work to do. That's not, but we know we have the pathway to getting through that. We don't, when the building's big enough, so we don't, we don't see that as something that's gonna upend the project.
And no consumption.
There's no place to consume. You can't consume inside and we're not gonna set up tables.
That,
Yeah, of course. We would need if we legally wanted people to consume, we would need a consumption license, which we're not going after. We have no interest in that. And if people start smoking inside, that's illegal. They have to leave. So, if people are congregating out front, then we'll have a situation where staff kind of goes out and gently tries to move people along. Like, we don't want people consuming outside. It's not, and I don't think New Yorkers are used to cannabis. I don't think they want to go buy and then go outside either. I think for the most part, customers buy it and they go wherever they're gonna go. Maybe sometimes that's on their walk back home, but I don't think it's gonna be standing in front of our front doors.
All right, well, this is a primarily residential area. You're across from Hudson River Park, the Greenway and Pier 45 lawn. Did you do outreach to residents? Nearby schools, particularly residents on Weehawken Street?
Not as of yet, and so that's, we have great plans to do that. We want to just make sure that we get approved before we waste anybody's time, start engaging with them.
Like, we've been doing informal grassroots outreach. We have a lot of friends and family members in the neighborhood, and so we've been going out of our way for several months to make folks aware of what we're doing and kind of who our team is, but we're gonna, we wanna.
There's somebody from the community that's on the way here, he could speak to it as well, but I'm not sure if he'll be here in time.
If I may.
We're
it's not-
still waiting for, there are some more questions. And then, do you have any other questions, committee
Well,
members?
again, I mean, this is still a pretty new process, right? And I'm just trying to understand that I'm clear on sequencing. So especially as it relates to the ownership structure. So does the OCM essentially allow you to go in? Seems like you're still forming up the ownership structure. You're finding investors. We don't know what it's going to look like exactly. Is it OCM allowing that you to go in sort of just saying, we don't know yet, we're going to find investors and then you come back after? Is that sort of how it works?
Yes.
But for our
What do you do,
part,
Kira?
what that means is we don't really know who's
Yeah.
going to be involved in the business. If, things are so up in the air, we have no idea.
Because I think the majority of the ones that we've heard, they came in with a hard ownership structure. So that's why I was just asking. Okay, but they give a 30-day period.
We know that we have financing options, but we want to take the best deal that's best for the applicant. And so we have a few options lined up, and if we get the provisional, we'll close on one of them, and if it's not in accordance with the state regs, they won't approve it.
What are your hours again? Your hours?
10, well, hours from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. I believe from Monday through Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday, we're looking to stay open a little bit longer. And then Sunday we'll close early. It's in the questionnaire that, you have the questionnaire?
Yeah, I'll pull it up, but I had another question. Are you aware that there is a congregate housing for homeless and people living with AIDS, like 100 feet away from this establishment?
No, I wasn't aware.
So customers.
Custom-
Just quick about the C of O, was it only one entrance, right, at the front right of the building?
No, there's
There are two entrances? Okay, and then is this the building too that, am I misremembering it used to be a bike store or still?
a bike store down the block.
That's what it is,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, it's probably just because it's a really old building and it's not fireproof. So if you reapply, I'm sure you might be able to get a little bit of leeway because 10 inside a building of that size is kind of crazy, but I figured it was because of the one entrance and I was wrong, so I'm sorry.
Have
Okay,
you guys looked at the basement? Because there hasn't been anybody in that building.
yes,
80s.
I've seen the basement.
In good shape, I mean, with Sandy and everything.
It's in decent shape. It needs work. The building needs work.
Okay.
Was there any public comment on that?
There was oh,
No, do the letter first, remember?
okay,
You
we
the
did have
correct one
a,
first.
you pull it up.
That's fine.
They have to fireproof it.
We received, I think, one public comment on the application.
We had some inquiries, but we did get one comment. Oh. I didn't have my glasses on.
Yeah, you,
Yeah,
should I go to
literally
Carter?
can't see.
He had his hand raised.
Yeah.
Carter, go ahead.
There are a couple of things, and a couple of things came up. So one of the, and Mar brings up a lot of good points. OCM was the decision maker, but these are consistent with the board's position all along. And it's not against anybody, but we were represented to us early on in this process that, you know, the initial stages of legalization for business, et cetera. The partnerships are what are the question. You guys are the first person to ask about that, but I think that diverges a little bit from what was represented at the beginning versus where we are now. But as everybody knows, OCM is particularly transparent or communicative the other direction. They've solicited input, but don't really give much back out. But I think that, you know, Mar's point about national branding versus what we were told initially is a very big open question, because it looks different to the is a forward facing out to people, and that's the issue with it. And I just bring that up, yeah, it's just what it is. And so it's not unfair that it's being, you know, it's the intent. And you know, Mar has really spoken about this from the beginning, and a lot of people understand, you know, the importance of that in the initial rounds, and that's very important. And so, you know, asking questions or talking about it, that's not, you know, ultimately OCM, you know, is the arbiter of that. I also was in your application, you say that the building's not a historic building, but all buildings in a historic district are contributing buildings unless it says otherwise. In looking at this, the building was built right around the time of the C of O. It's fascinating. 3 months. That's like monster flags all over the place. And it was apparently supposed to be a gas station at that time. So, you know, I only say this because cha-ching, taking care of, you know, depending on your lease and who's responsible for the building. You know, that's I don't say that as anything else. That's very real. I've never seen something that says it built in 3 months before. So I just,
Right.
raised that also, and it's also, I think when the building was all painted over gray and everything else, it doesn't look good, you know, and not that it ever was a beautiful building, but the brickwork and everything else is a part of what the history is, and that was really putting the building to sleep for a long time, and, you know, and so.
We like to see bricks.
Well, I'm just pointing out, you know,
Not a bad idea.
you know, and so I bring that up, but you know, the flip side is that the use here was, you know, a 60-40 adult entertainment spot at some point. There seemed to have been some violations on it. I don't know if that was ever legit or not. But then the other thing that our board has raised over and over are parks, you know, in proximity to parks, and the concern is that people go into parks. And unfortunately, you know, the discussion with people smoking in parks is not a comfortable discussion. Because people smoke in them and then it becomes how to not have them, and that of course it raises all these other issues. And that tied in with the whole spirit of the MRTA is, you know, raises a lot of issues. But ultimately you have a park across the street. And while you can't control the customers, it's just, you know, an open issue. And hopefully you guys are sensible to it. It's not. And then the other issue, this is also part of the what some of the local land owners were trying to create a rehab and arts district. And this building is a corner of that. I mean, it may not have a lot of interest because the building's what it is. I'm sure that's an issue. But I just raised that as part of this area. It's a very specific historic district, so we historic district, which is, you know, a lot of ship corn uses from the past and stuff like that. And finally, just to follow up on what Chris said, you know, the C of O has a low occupancy, but you don't need a new C of O for that. It's a letter of no objection. Because what is the trigger in New York is safety. And the safety is once you have assembly over 75. Stores, it's unclear to me if a store is a place of assembly. That's an open question. An eating and drinking establishment is a place of assembly. Stores may or may not be. That's not clear to me. I just bring that up because that's an issue. But as Chris said, that is not impossible to rectify, but there's nothing in front to show it has been. So this location is an interesting location because of its history.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about plus or negative, but there are a lot of open issues I think that are real, because one of the things we want to see is businesses that open stay in business.
Naturally, I mean, that's why, I mean, this is as much of a New York business as it gets. The entire ownership structure is comprised of local New Yorkers. New Yorkers know brands. If there's an opportunity to partner with Pepsi or Coca-Cola and you're gonna open up a soda stand, and Coca-Cola happens to be operating in a state, that doesn't make you any less of a New Yorker, especially when your entire ownership team is comprised of local New Yorkers. And going back to what you were saying, I love the fact that it's the Weehawken Arts District. This building's been vacant since the 80s. It's gonna fall down. Okay, fine, but we will support that, is what I'm saying. We'll be a positive benefit to that. We're not taking anything away. We're only gonna add to it. We're not gonna market in the parks. We understand. But again, like the fact that we border the highway and we're near a park, that's a plus. That's not a negative because maybe somebody might go consume in a park. Right now, they're consuming illegal products in the park that they're getting at these stores that are all over the place, which we're gonna help push out of business when we open. So, but we get it. But when you see the Flowery, the one thing I want to stress is that doesn't mean not New York. The ownership structure is New York. The Flowery was made by New Yorkers. They just happen to provide medical access to patients in other parts of the world. But we're a New York company through and through, simple as that. And our ownership structure will be vetted in and out. And the state's going to make us reiterate the ownership structure year after year. And there are certain regs that we have to comply with. So
Yeah, that's really cool what you said about the arts program. I think
I don't know what the status of it is. Okay.
yeah, well,
I'm also in the art community, and done a lot of projects with fine artists that are here in New York. So I'll look more into that and see how we can possibly collaborate. And it's a good point that you brought up about the parks and smoking. You know, we'll make sure that we remind our customers to not, you know, do that. Do you find that there's a lot of people smoking cigarettes in that park?
You know, issues is no smoking period, right? And
I'm saying it's
Yes.
cigarette
Yeah,
smoking.
The answer is yeah, in every park, yeah, people smoke even though it's illegal too. So yes, like it's not a problem I'm gonna be able to solve either.
We'll try.
We can be mindful and not go out of our way.
you know what I didn't mention? The issue with the structure is that it appears as if it's a franchise agreement. And that's what,
Right.
using the name over and over, that's the issue.
No,
And it's
yeah.
not independently named.
I mean, there's a difference,
That's
yeah.
just
Understood.
to clarify,
Totally.
and I'm not speaking for Mara, but I think that's what people see, and that's not what everybody wanted.
Yeah.
People didn't wanna see Coca-Cola stands everywhere, or, that
Yeah.
resonates a different. Here it's to highlight New York products, and
Yeah.
that's what was represented to us, not a name that's everywhere else. That may change in the future, but that's. We have
We're
a
only-
huge problem in the structure
Yeah.
supporting the farmers and their
Yeah.
brands, and
The farmers love the flowery because we're only buying products from the farmers. And again, it's a brand name. And so it doesn't mean a franchise. There may be a licensing arrangement where the flowery can help support this applicant and provide for these sales. But again, it's going to be vetted in accordance with the law. And day one, we said, let's build a New York company. And that's why we're here. We're here because it's where he grew up. It's where he lives. We're not in Times Square. We're not anywhere else. We go where we're from. That's the whole point. So.
I'm gonna read the comments that was submitted to the committee. It says, hello, Community Board 2 Cannabis Committee. I'm writing as a community member and parent to express concern about the application to open a dispensary at 388 West Street. With 3 schools in the immediate vicinity, Christopher Street is a thoroughfare for children going to the river after school. Many children play baseball and other sports at Pier 40, and many others go to Hudson River Park to play. My concern is that the river and park are ideal sports for customers. The dispensary and take use their purchases. Smoking near children at play is a terrible idea already. This is a huge issue at JJ Walker Park, which has ongoing and daily issues with people bringing marijuana from a nearby illegal dispensary. Large amount of smoke drifts straight into the playground. Ask any parent who takes children to JJ Walker Park and they will tell you that this isn't a constant problem. My concern as a parent of 3 children who often use Hudson River Park and Pier 40 is that it will become a bigger issue by the river if the dispensary is approved. Thank you for your consideration of my concern. This is a family neighborhood. Why didn't you reach out to this? Did you reach out? You didn't reach out to school. Did you reach out to school?
Not as of yet, but that's the thing is that, I think when we get closer to being approved, we'll have a plan to take care of those things.
Yeah, I mean, we followed the process the state laid out for us.
Okay.
And we've sought out a location that meets with.
I also went to school in this neighborhood. I went to PS 41.
Like part of that comment too is about how people just smoke weed in general, and I don't know how they're actually gonna solve that, especially considering they specifically mentioned illegal weed shops. So like, they're doing the right process. I don't know if this is actually their responsibility.
So I appreciate that. Part of the idea is legal stores will help put the illegal ones out. Like that's a philosophy we do adopt. We think that New Yorkers want the real stuff. So we hope to combat it, but yeah, we get that. Families are everywhere. This is New York. Every block there's families living on every block. So we have to be super mindful. No kids are coming into our store. We're not letting people smoke outside.
Yeah, you have to present ID just like the other
Yeah.
dispensaries.
I'm gonna take, are you guys done?
I was just gonna ask, does anyone know how long that building's been vacant? Cause on
Heard it's
Google,
like 20 years.
Google Maps,
Forever.
No, he said it was the early.
early 2000s, but
Somewhere between 20 and 40 years.
A while.
It's been vacant. Before you take public comment? No?
what's the distance from the village community school? It's more than 500 feet, I guess.
CF, it's like a long block and a short block.
I'm gonna go and take public comments. If you would keep it brief and concise, that would be great. Thank you. You're up. If you could come closer to the owls. Hi.
Wherever that is. I'm Io Harrington. Hello, everybody. I am Dorian's mother. When I first came to New York in the 60s, I lived in this neighborhood and I've lived in several locations in this neighborhood since. I live on the Lower East Side where I raised Dorian, but he went to school at PS 41. And that is what catapulted us into a lot of social justice issues, both as mother and son, that not only benefited this neighborhood, the neighborhood that we live in now, but citywide. Dorian, as I said, graduated from PS 41. He also is very connected to community. So whether he is opening a business, or he is doing an event somewhere, the idea of doing something and not being in communication with the people who are in the community, the neighbors, is just not something that he does. When he graduated from high school, his first job was about land and about community. He worked as an educator for the African burial ground. His philosophy in terms of life is about, how can African Americans benefit from any community and any kind of effort. So as it relates to this particular project, this particular business, he may get the advice from someone else and he may partner with other people. That is his decision to make. But he is an African American male who has been involved with the criminal justice system. He is trying to take advantage of something that was supposed to benefit people of African descent who are involved with the criminal justice system that is now morphed into a situation where so many more now are in a loop. That said, I think, what is really important here is that this is an African person who wants to open a business, who wants to create generational wealth for our family, and hope very much that this advisory committee will vote in support of him. As far as one last thing, as far as community outreach is concerned, there is no one who knows how to do that better than me. No one. And so I will be part of the team that will be talking to schools, that will be meeting with nearby businesses, that will be helping to create letters to residents and all that is needed. Because when you are opening something in someone else's living room, you want them to have input into what the outcome is going to be. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Seeing none. No. So, and no more other.
Where was the letter you read? Who was that from?
It was from Vancouver. It was in Westwood House.
Is it like, are we able to like directly respond to people that may have concerns?
If they so choose.
Well, you said I think we're done with this application because we have one other waiting.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Why not?
Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
good. Welcome for
Humble abode.
yeah. So you are a
Andrew Cooper, Jack Luber. Jack Luber is the sole controlling shareholder of what we're calling Cousin Mary's. He's partner, Eric Olson is 49% shareholder, just so you know who the owners are.
Okay.
Jack and Eric are lifelong New Yorkers, born and raised, grown up, not far from the meatpacking district.
Okay.
I'm Andrew Cooper. We've met before, so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an attorney. I run a practice group in cannabis and psychedelics. I also work with the Justice Foundation, Legacy to Lead, helping Legacy to Leadership, however we call it. We've done a lot of work in the space in assisting applicants through the card round and into the first licensing round. I teach a cannabis law class. I'm also one of the CHIPS lawyers, meaning I work with OCM as a volunteer, assisting CF in filling out, completing applications and correcting deficiencies. I want to thank you first, from truly, you should train other community. And I say that, I don't say that lightly. They have a hard time navigating the issues. understanding their role. And it's sometimes frustrating because they think that they just don't want cannabis and they scream and they pound on the table. So I appreciate it. This is a project like nothing that I've ever seen. I've been doing this for a long time and I've had 30 or more community board meetings. We're in the meatpacking district. Yeah, no, it's organizing.
Let me just remind our committee that this is an adult use retail dispensary and consumption facility and card application.
Correct.
Which will be at 22 Little West 12th
That's correct.
Street. And the entrance will be on 22 Little West 12th.
That's correct.
Okay.
Or 9th Avenue in Washington.
Yeah. There is a separate entrance for the basement, which was planned to be the consumption facility. It was an existing club. So everybody's clear, we're not likely, sorry? Yeah. We're not likely going to be moving forward with that piece of the project.
Yeah.
Just because after spending a lot of time in the last week, since our last scheduled meeting, and sometimes before, we just realized that we're not sure whether the state and the community are ready for a consumption lounge of that size. We think the better process would be to expose the community to consumption on a different scale, at a different level, at a much smaller level. Ultimately, our goal is to do it safely and with community concerns in mind. So I just want to be clear that it's 99% that basement space, which has a street level access entry on Gansevoort, is pretty safe to say we're not going to be proceeding. It's just going to be focused on the retail side, which is the entrance on Little West 12.
And is it soundproof? This, because it says it's 3,700 square feet.
700 square feet, yeah.
So, oh, I'm sorry. No, you go first. You finish.
No, go ahead. I'm still looking.
Question. I was just gonna, so you said, sorry. The plan is to not do any consumption at all, or did you mention you're gonna try to do some kind of smaller?
We don't have any direct plan right now. And I think that the way to approach this is to kind of open up your retail site, build your business, learn what the community wants, and figure out a way to implement that safely. I mean, obviously we have the right to do it and the ability to do it, but it's not part of our current plan. And Jack and Eric both come from a restaurant and bar background, club backgrounds. But so long-term, big picture, it's probably something at some point, to be honest with you, but there's no immediate plan.
Not to interrupt.
Please, go ahead.
It became a perk when the space was available underneath the retail space as it is now. When it was approached to me, is that something I'm interested in? Legitimately, I was against it. I'm not against making money and I'm not against fulfilling the bylines of the law, but I am not interested primarily in opening a consumption lounge. My goal is to open a retail store of high fine quality, run it correctly, and then approach any other kind of venture separately. This just became available because of its existence underneath the space. And, I'm pretty sure that's not a direction I was initially heading.
And I think just by way of further background, the state hasn't come out and promulgated draft regs for on-site consumption. They haven't done delivery either. So I think that ultimately they're going to have some concerns. And to be honest with you, so do I. And that's because we have two components within the edible space, and edibles can include, edible, which we've come to learn is you eat, but also beverage is considered edible, yet smoking is a component. So we really don't know what's going to be permissible. And we do have concerns about the beverage concept, because while you have beverages and you have identifiable amounts of THC, if you add in a mixed cocktail concept and you rely on somebody independent to calculate the amount of THC added to the drink, if they're not using a canned cocktail method, it leads to concerns that we don't really want.
Hopefully the state's thinking of all this.
I don't want to make any representation for the state, but we're learning that they do what they do. When they queued the licensees and they queued micro business licenses and they didn't separate micro business licenses with a retail component and those without, it made less sense to me. The whole process made less sense to me. And then when they promised they would queue and then pool and determine licensed, who was gonna be licensed by what number of eligibility components you met. And then they just decided, we're not doing any of that. We're just gonna queue everybody. You start to wonder.
The queuing was actually administered by the Gaming Commission.
The people who do the New York State Lottery, and they had one of the big, I guess there's only three now, big three accounting firms
Yeah.
audit the process so they can represent that it was fair and that it was not in any way guided by anything other than random chance.
Yeah.
But you guys aren't
Interesting.
that.
No, we're
because you're-
cards. We had no,
you're already like-
yeah, we don't, the only reason that's impactful is because we're still not sure how they're going to handle the cards that obtained and didn't maintain proximity protection. We anticipate there was 2 or 3% of all cards were able to get proximity protection and then maintain it because with the injunction, nobody was really willing to double down, start paying rent. So they're now faced with all these cards who had to submit sites seeking site protection within the deadline. And I think they really wanted to know who was able to maintain proximity protection. But we're not sure what they're going to do and how they're going to handle that. If they want to prioritize cards over the first application round, then they need to start doing something. Now, we do know, by the way, today, they started issuing proximity protection.
Yes.
But today's the first day and I only heard of 3 or 4 total that received it. They weren't in New York City proper. They were in Finger Lakes and North Country and Southern Tier where there's not quite the issues that we have here with regard to site control.
Any other questions?
Did you go through this? That
Um,
that,
All right, I see that your Little West 12th Street is between Washington and 9th Avenue, Brennan Street, and it's part of the New York City Open Streets Program, which is with full closure Wednesday through Friday, 2 to 10, and Saturday, 12 to 10.
Right.
How are you gonna manage, like, the sidewalk traffic, vehicular traffic?
Well, we spent a lot of time and I personally spent a lot of time in building out, systems such as QLIS, where they're designed to handle and administer programs to avoid congestion, both inside and outside of facilities. So we're very conscious of the need to do that, especially in this area. Now, the street, the Little West 12th, has a lot less foot traffic than either the sides, Washington, Gansevoort, or 9th. People go down it. So we're conscious and we have a plan in place to make sure that there is no issue with regard to people moving past. It's a really wide street, we're lucky in that sense, and very little car traffic. Yeah. So it's safe. We're not concerned about people. Obviously, they close off the street. So we don't anticipate it being a problem to handle.
What about security guards?
We anticipate 3. We have 3,700 square feet. It's a big space. Vacillating between, everybody has their theory of whether they should be armed or unarmed. We tend to believe unarmed is safer for everybody. So that's kind of the route we go, although I've heard everything under the sun. We try to assess the situation based on geography. And this site, based on the components and the structure, it seems that the safest way to do it would be 3 on the security end, one person outside, who's also responsible for ensuring that there's no congregation outside. They can't open their packages and do anything with it, whether they're buying pre-rolls or rolling themselves or using vapes. And that person's job is to ensure that there's compliance. 2 people inside, one directly inside the door and one probably roaming around the store to ensure, kind of risk managed prophylactic.
How many employees do you plan to?
We'll have a lot of space. So we can probably have as many as 20 bartenders and POS systems. We don't anticipate that we're going to. We don't want it to be crowded. We have occupancy about 113. So we should never be, I'd love to think we would, but we're not likely going to ever be at that.
We don't anticipate it being a downtown Apple Store energy. I'd like it to be.
Go ahead.
So how are you gonna utilize the cellular level now that you're, we don't know when you'd be able to do consumption?
We're going to give up that space. We're going to give up the space.
Yeah, it's an option inside of the lease.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just it makes it way more feasible for us to do the project without the additional cost of that space. Plus, that space required work and renovation work that the upstairs doesn't. We're like white boxed upstairs. We could be operational in 45 to 60 days.
That's great. I would like to disclose that I've known Jack Luber over 30 years. We're very friendly, but I wouldn't call us friends. Don't take offense.
I talked to Mar in a year, and before that was 4 years or 5 years. I own them, just to give some clarity to who I am as a New Yorker, I was born in the West Village. I grew up in the West Village. I went to Little Red. I went to PS3. I went to school uptown, and I opened a club, and then I had worked in restaurants and bars and nightclubs most of my life. I opened my own business in 1989 called Frankie Jackson's Soul Kitchen, all down here in CB2. Most of my activity happened between 14th Street and Canal Street. I was in business with that, with that concept for 12 years. So when it comes to crowd management and navigating street traffic, I hate to use this word, I'm essentially a pro at it. It's what I did. My club held between 500 and 2,500 people an evening, depending on the venue we used. It's how I met Mar, how we became friends amongst a ton of other folks in associates. Excuse me. In any event, this is the community I was raised in, as you are, and appreciate that. And yeah, I just wanted to give some clarity as to, and as what I do now is I live between Long Island and New York City. I design and build homes in Amagansett, Long Island. So I've opened between 6 and 8 successful businesses. I've closed them by choice and sold several of them. But now my company is Shell and Core Design and Build in Amagansett. And when the opportunity came to open up a dispensary in the state of New York, it's something I have unconditional love for. Marijuana, my whole life I have. It's bizarrely enough been an important feature in my life for health reasons. For my mother, when she passed away, it prolonged her life for several years during a tremendous bout of cancer. When I got the opportunity to provide and pursue this license, I did at all costs what I could do to prevail, to hold on to. So that's who I am.
I have a question. On your questionnaire, you said that there was residential in the building, but we are told that that block is 100% commercial. What?
Yeah, it was just an error.
It's an error.
Yeah, there's no
We'll talk to
residential on that
talk to
block.
Eric about that.
Yeah, we'll talk to Eric. There's no residential on
Yeah.
that street.
There's very little
Yeah,
residential.
you guys did predominantly commercial with 1 to 6 residential units, but they're not.
No, I think, you know what, we did it because there might be 1 or 2 aberrant units on a second level of buildings that look like they could be. And that's why we just wanted to make sure that we covered that.
Your questionnaire, you didn't submit any product.
Menu,
Menu.
product.
You know, for people to submit a menu and products at this time, we're growing a market. I mean, we could talk about, say, yeah, we're gonna be getting from Flower House and we're gonna be carrying these, you know, brands. But the fact of the matter is we haven't yet assessed what we're gonna carry.
And who are the best brands and who are the most respectable and reputable companies that are putting products on the market that I myself would partake with. That's the expectation. The end user game here is to serve the best product on the market, whether they're edibles or flowers or tinctures or vape products. And to be able to put that out there with confidence that every other dispensary in New York isn't selling the same product.
Well, we
It's going to
can,
be very hard.
no,
It's
you're
going to
right.
be difficult, but you know, we want to show ourselves as a bespoke market, not cost wise, but the actual product. And right now, if you look at the definition of that in today's market in New York, it's a variable. There's almost nothing you could say they're the best because they're all very par. And for me to put a menu together right now, except for saying we're going to serve flower, tincture, edibles, that's exactly what we're, as far as brands, all New York, all in-state, all according to the guidelines.
We do believe that we're gonna create an environment and a destination in a way that any brand would want us to sell their
Yeah.
brand. You know, we have a, you know, an interesting market. I mean, on the flower side, you know, it's marginal at best. You know, so processed cannabis products are really the only thing that really competes with what people are buying on the street, which is what we don't want to happen. So, you know, we're not going to come here and give you a list of brands that we're planning to carry because, to be honest with you, we're not convinced that we're going to carry any specific. mean, we might, could give you a couple of names of people that we probably would agree on, but
I mean, I saw one up on the board before. There are very few distributors that are working in New York, which are as well. For lack of better words, there are another company in other states that are producing in other states that are now coming to New York to produce. So it's not a New York product. It's actually an out-of-state product. I'm actually looking for New York products that originated and they burden the effort of growing their brand here in New York per this licensing position. You know, this is what we're looking for.
but I mean, Jenny's was up. I would agree. And Jenny's a great product.
Yeah, well, backwoods is,
Yeah,
these are
backwoods,
good
yeah,
products, but they're not derived. They didn't,
Recall.
yeah.
Well, you know, but by the way, you know,
I didn't especially Jenny's, by the way.
no, there's actually a big story behind there. So, you know,
I had those.
Yeah.
So I had those gummies. And
I want to be clear about another thing too, about the
I did, I
dispensary.
returned them. to-
yeah.
I bought them.
No, but so the way the recalls work is generally, recalls you see are voluntary recalls. Very, very, very few times you ever have a mandatory recall. Usually the company gives the opportunity to do it. I've worked in-house with Robert's American Gourmet, Pirates Food, so I understand that process really well. They wanted to make a point, and it was unfortunate because I don't know that she deserved it.
Oh, yeah.
So-
It was a lab error.
Yeah.
But
No, I understand. Listen, but there's still, I still consider her to be.
Yeah, I'd like to just finish my thought, if
Yeah.
I could, just to reiterate the aesthetic and the presence of this store. I'm going the absolute opposite direction of fluorescent, colorful and adolescent and strong. I'm not going towards one ethnicity where most of these stores are basing their primary on what their populous volume numbers get. This whole concept of Cousin Mary's is based after a John Coltrane jazz song. It's his favorite, one of my favorite songs called Cousin Mary. And the essence of opening this dispensary is to kind of revitalize the promise that all the artistic culture in our community in New York, whether it's food or music or canvas art or sculpture or recorded, you know, and whether it's music, if it's country, if it's hip hop, if it's blues, if it's jazz, if it's art, if it's Basquiat, if it's whatever, these people all smoked weed. And there's quotes of their life smoking weed. Louis Armstrong called it his salve in 1946. So that's my premise, is to show people a musical and artistic gallery of who you collaborate with and who you're enjoying this product with similarly to, without the exposure of color and fluorescence, almost bistro-esque from the 80s. If you're familiar with gold leaf and black fonting in windows and smoked out glass so you can't see inside the building to give you a level of mystery, even though that's the law that you're not allowed to look through the premise and see flower and product, it works along with the whole concept of Cousin Mary's. That's my shtick.
We didn't receive any letters. Did you do any?
Yeah, so we have over 25 signatures and probably 50 more that said, we're all in, we can't wait, but I'd have to have this reviewed by too many people to sign it. So this is for you guys. Yeah,
Get that.
sure.
There were no addresses.
Are there businesses?
The categories. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, wait,
For businesses.
yeah, businesses seem to make more sense than the address. Without
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
a totally
retail.
block.
Yeah.
And I did speak to Ernie, I didn't speak to Chris, but they were on the application. Excellent.
Do you have a vent in the space?
No, that's the idea of me not being interested in doing a consumption lounge. I come from a long history of running nightclubs and bars, and I can tell you that I don't see the promise of it. I see the promise of selling a product and moving our customers in and out of the building safely. I don't see the promise of entertaining people with whatever is going on in the building or the event that they're booking the space for, and then being responsible for them partaking.
The biggest thing I think we'll have is a grand opening and
Yeah.
an anniversary.
Yeah.
And by the way, within the limits of the regulations, which won't allow us to really do much of anything other than maybe LinkedIn and emails for existing customers.
Oh, on your application, you said something about, I want you to expand on natural when it comes to sound.
You said it has natural soundproofing, the space. Oh, but it was Cielo.
That's the club below us, yeah, so I'm sorry, please.
Sneakers and stuff, and then the club below you was sneakers and stuff.
Club,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, this is our SLA chair, Donna Property, and I would love to put you guys in touch. Live in the, she's.
Yeah,
big
great.
against-
Yeah, it's the one neighbor we have on our street.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I mean, the one thing we didn't start with, and I didn't start with it because I said it already. You're partners, and I don't mean that in the fiscal sense, but I mean, you know, our goal is to be successful and to be community oriented. You know, we don't want to make enemies, we want to make friends, so we do want feedback. And even if that feedback is a call and say, you know, have you thought about this? What do you think about that? We're welcome to. We realize that, you know, I mean, I know the community board covers a lot of ground. You know, it's interesting. I have an apartment on 95 Green. I lived on Bleecker between Mercer and LaGuardia for years. So I too come from this neighborhood. This is no other community board I've ever been a part of except two. So it just covers a lot of ground. We do recognize it, but we are receptive to hearing opinions, whether or not you remember now or forget and want to contact us later. Please feel free.
I have 3 other questions before you wrap up.
Yeah.
Go over your hours. Your
12 to 8,
opening.
Sunday through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 12 to 12.
Opening date.
Well, we don't know when we're gonna
You
get.
let us sign a lease
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
will open our store. and
Well, we didn't,
stick it.
we're not them, it's not there.
No, I don't mean you.
As soon as we get site protection, as soon as we get site protection.
Yeah.
We expect it will take us 45 to 60 days.
Yeah.
And you didn't submit a floor plan.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, sure we did.
No,
It's an attachment, sure.
it's all in there. It was the first version I did that didn't have any of the attachments, just because I was.
Okay.
They do, but
Board
it's there.
members, any other questions?
Did you guys get a good, you were able to review this?
I have the floor plan and stuff, yeah.
Oh, okay. Other board members?
If he doesn't speak, it's not a board meeting.
I was just gonna say the open streets is akin to a park in the way it's utilized by the meatpacking district, and
Mhm.
so the smoking there is obviously, I mean, this is. No fault of you guys at all, but this is what we hear. From the outside, right? That's the big issue. And so it's about outside consumption in the open streets. I don't know if you talked to the bid with respect to that.
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled with them.
Et cetera, and, you know, so that's one open issue. The other thing, and even though you removed the basement, there was that I saw that raised some flags as a membership. And, one of the things being open to the public, right?
That would have been only part of the consumption component.
But even then, it's still.
Still membership.
It's different, it's membership,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's covered in,
It may not.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, all right, I'm just,
Thing that wouldn't. I
the spirit of that, just
allowed.
something that I just wanted to raise, and then I forgot to ask in the last application, but I was reminded, bathrooms, because both of these locations are in out of the way areas, catering to people traveling there, is there access?
You know,
to the public to that?
Well,
Read it. Did you look?
yeah, so.
No, I did,
Just so you,
the bathrooms are next to the storage.
just so you,
Wouldn't be.
just so you know, so 2 things. Number one, generally speaking, the requirements to have a bathroom for your employees as required by the regs. Generally, the employee bathroom is in the back of the house, which is not accessible for general public. However, Jack and Eric already pointed out the fact that, if people are gonna cross the street and the High Line, they might. So we're designing the interior with access, to give them access to the bathroom.
Yeah, and accessible bathroom, not just a standard bathroom. I'm not sure if this is par for today's communication, it's dialogue, but an ADA. When I own bars, that's what you call them. I don't know if you're allowed to call it that anymore.
Well, Housing Works got sued for an ADA violation on the website.
Right.
Yeah,
So I know. So that's why I'm saying that in this meeting as to what you're calling it. I don't know what they've changed the law to I guess it's just an accessible bathroom. So that's what I was clear on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's why of course, yeah, feedback is helpful. So thank you.
We looked at the doorways in the lot.
Yeah, we did. We had some meetings.
Any other board members or public?
The only other thing I'd add on to what Carter was saying about the open streets, you also have the plaza there too. The Gansevoort Plaza.
Yeah, Gansevoort Plaza. Yeah.
Not even then, not using control that, but that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're conscious of the fact that, And just because we've seen it and been involved in this industry that, there's always a chance that people walk out and want to use their product.
Yeah.
But that's why, as part of our plan, we're gonna do everything we can.
Yeah, and with
To make sure that,
with 3 security on site, with 1 at the front and 1 at the entrance, checking whatever else they're doing with a roaming third, we have the opportunity to take that person, put him or her outside and allow them to assist the person that's working out there. This is all stuff that this kind of minutia is calm dialogue and good community with, just, it's,
They can help.
yes,
Too.
of course, of course.
they were very receptive.
Yeah.
We've been in dialogue with them and we have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna listen to what they have to say and adjust as requested or suggested.
Any other public comments on this application? No. Okay, then, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, it's a pleasure to be before this board. I will say it again. So thank you.
With that said, we're gonna move to business session now. For this application. In business session, there is no, participation by public members or other, by public members, so business session is in session, and we're gonna talk about.
I just need to remember 1 quick second. If folks are gonna leave, just please be careful. I turned that speaker on for obvious reasons, but don't touch it. It's okay. I already burned myself once. So, yeah, the public is welcome to stay. It's just that you can't comment.
Can't comment anymore.
Oh, okay.
All right, because if Omar to come back to vote. I think she emailed you guys the resolution.
Yeah, but
Do you have?
Reso two is gonna have to change a lot. They're not doing.
Yeah. She, according to the bylaws, she can comment and vote.
She can.
Yeah.
I thought she has to abstain on the first one. Recuse,
Well,
but she can participate in the dialogue, I think.
wait, what does it say?
Part of it.
Oh, it
She-
says.
Mars allowed to participate in the dialogue, but has to.
Not in any way prevent.
She allowed to participate in.
Yeah. The
She
department.
can, yeah,
The
exactly.
most important elements, it's
Disclosure, yeah.
it's not.
As we talked about.
Right.
But it says that she can vote as well.
She can vote, but she has to vote, she has to recuse, I think, on the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
she can vote on the second. She can vote on the second.
I'm waiting for her to come back. She's talking to Mark.
All right, I'm gonna use the restroom. Okay. No one.
And you guys have the resolution, right?
Why are you? How many years have you been on the community board? Did you have to step out for a year when they changed everything? Haven't kicked in yet?
Starting. Reason to.
Yeah, you might realize just how much time.
Yes.
You did for quorum.
For discussion.
We're in business session. We're talking about the application. We're going to, we're not. William is in the back because we're out. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Madam Chair. Please forgive me. All right,
So resolution,
the first one, which is.
you guys saw the resolution? So, I actually have a question. What do we think we should be doing about Rosebud? So we've missed the comment period. But we have like all this great juicy stuff that Carter did. That's awesome. So let's do a letter, not specifically about maybe that application, but on the topic or on that school. Like, what do you think it should be?
You know, this is a great question, you know, this
Yeah.
is not clarity, but it either qualifies or you don't. It's not the subjectivity is only for CO. And you they didn't think it qualified, so that's all we're looking to because it's a proximity. It's also very important for an applicant to know this because like in liquor, again, there's liquor licensing, which law is very simple, almost word for word. The corrective action is you lose your license at when it expires. And so it's a very significant penalty. And that's why it's so important to raise the issues. But that's something of local knowledge, which is what they want to know. The comment period, that's a fact that's what the school is. So I think you should do the reso, just, that's what we do. Just do the reso.
But if we do that reso, they're just going to
No, and send a separate letter and just raise the school.
do a letter and attach the reso,
Yeah.
acknowledging that we've missed the comment period, so they don't kick it back. Yeah,
Okay,
how does everybody?
It's the reso from last month.
from Rosebud?
Mara asked me to edit, I put the edits in.
Yeah, Rosebud, I sent them to you guys.
Okay, sorry.
Super awesome. Fantastic, terrific.
Okay.
Have a chance to look at it?
I have it now, I have it now.
These locations, the measurements are a little different, but it's so important for the businesses to know too. This stuff, because you don't want their business to be harmed without their knowledge of this. And it's just like we hear everybody waiting for proximity protection. This is no different because that measurement is critical to the business goes on. You're stuck in all these.
Yeah, no, they should know. I mean, it's the amount of the lack of guidance on compliant locations is ridiculous. We see people all the time coming to community boards saying, oh, I've got this great space. And then you have to, just like today, you would say, oh, no, there's a church right next door. And going next door and saying, hi, are you a church is really not gonna cut it. And the school, I mean, on that application, we actually heard from the West Village bid, who did speak to the church and the school and told an entirely different story than the applicant.
And that's what I was going to go to. One of the processes that has not been set up, and this is another issue, is there's not a way in which anybody can ask OCM about a location in advance so that they don't submit all the fees and file, spend all this time. That's not good. And so, the liquor authority, you can ask for a declaratory ruling or you go before the board with whatever your facts are and you say, well, here's a set of facts. How would you weigh in on this? And then that process isn't there. And there's so many issues, but that's another open issue. And that this church is an example of that. The neighborhood church is an example of that. And it's not up to the church.
It's not.
It's up to OCM.
Has OCM granted any exceptions to these proximity rules that we are aware of?
So there's a whole public convenience thing that they're supposed to have that's in the reg, but they don't have that up and running yet.
Okay.
So we don't
know of anything that's opened anywhere that's within 500 feet of a school or church.
Yeah. And I mean, I know people who are I'm only 5 feet, and they're no, we're not even doing 6 inches.
Okay.
So.
Well, I mean, the other part of this too is you get the right dealer, you can buy weed inside of Great Oaks or this church right now. This is kind of we're overthinking a thing that doesn't actually apply, or at least is a gray area. And then on top of that,
it's not
whatever
gray. It's the law.
Well, okay, but I mean, not to really nitpick there, but I'm still thinking about how they're trying to establish a business, and then I forgot my other point because it's it's not actually a consumption place. all of these places that came before us today said, you can buy your weed here and then you have to leave. Like every single person is not saying you come in here, you smoke weed, and then you try to sell it to a kid who's buying next to you. Like, it's not a bar, it's not a consumption establishment. I think that's a different thing that we have to keep.
I mean,
getting to talk.
nobody here, I hope, is, anti-cannabis. I think the bigger issue is we want good operators and we want solid.
People don't waste their time.
And we want their time. We want people to be able to stand up viable business. And we also, we have suffered empty storefronts like crazy, and if we
Yeah.
could bring more of these businesses, then that would be great, but we don't want ones that are gonna, A, shut down right away, B, get sold to an MSO tomorrow, and then we have a superstore and a chain of superstores in our neighborhood. Like, it should be a good fit, just like everything else, each application on its own merit. So,
But what I'm hearing, Mara, is that, right, and I think, tell me if I'm wrong, it could be the best operator, the person that we waving their hands saying, please open up in our district, we love you. And they could have everything right, but if they're 499 feet from a school, they will not get the license, and that's not up to us. We want to make sure that they're not wasting their own time.
Right.
Because they're gonna spend all this money getting ready. And it's not our decision. So that's a flaw in the system, it's not.
Well, it's just.
Well, yeah, it's how they designed it. Exactly.
I mean, we all have to work within the confines of rules and laws. And every business does.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next application we heard.
Well, shouldn't we move on to the next agenda?
Because we still vote on the ones that,
Yeah.
that didn't.
We're gonna vote on those.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have to vote on those.
Rosebud.
Okay, so.
But what are we voting on? Are we voting on the letter? Well, there's no time, I think. Yeah, but then I have to write it tonight and get it to full board tomorrow.
I mean, technically, according to Robert's rules, you have to get it to 6:30.
All right.
Today?
Yeah, 2 hours ago. Yeah.
According to Robert's rule, you should have got the letter to them at 6:30.
Yeah. So.
I know.
like, let's just go with the rest. What we had, we moved it because of us.
First is not 24. And we never do.
What does Robert say about inclement weather? Gonna move a meeting. Maybe it does say something, I don't know.
Someone text Matt.
All right, so are we voting on the letter?
Yep. Are we
With the reso attached?
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So all in favor?
Aye.
So it passes unanimously. Okay. Second agenda item? Eyeline.
No, it's Pramukh 202 LLC at 202 Mott Street.
Question on this? They brought up another location while they were talking.
Who's this?
Rosebud.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
told them we couldn't.
No, I'm
keep
just.
This-
When they presented it,
Yeah,
and it was discussed,
Oh,
did they send you the notice?
it. We
No.
talked to her.
I'm just
We talked to her.
I'm just getting some clarification.
Yeah, we thought she was required to give notice and we don't have, I said, we don't have anything.
Just,
Yeah.
just, it was discussed.
We saw that.
for clarity. So that's-
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, she talked about it, but she didn't not give notice, so there's no more discussion. Okay. All right, the second agenda item. What was it?
Pramukh?
202 LLC, 202 Mott Street, Nitin Patel did not respond to outreach. Number 3, Daima.
So should we vote on number 2?
I know it's for
That will be a deny.
Yeah.
But they did not,
Agree, aye.
the other two here.
the term. I have to go back, all right. And number 3, Daima LLC doing business as Flower Guys.
And sorry, what's
Oh.
a High Life Living? Because
Hold on. Let me see if this guy, he didn't submit a withdrawal. He said he was going to. I told him he had to get it in by 6:30. And he did not. So
So this will be another deny.
failure
this is
to.
Daimai?
Yeah, and he's
Daima,
a card licensing.
Oh,
But
okay.
he thought that the CGS across the street was a licensed dispensary. Which it may be one day, but it's not
Not
today.
now.
yeah, but we did not receive his letter of withdrawal.
And sorry, High Life Living, that's That was just a mistake because we already reviewed that.
What says highlight?
It's on this
For the
printout.
agenda.
I don't.
Okay.
That was,
So then-
It says already reviewed, so
Okay, so that one went on the calendar accidentally
okay.
and should have never been there. And instead of being erased, it was crossed out, even though it was well before a week.
Good.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
Sorry about that. Okay.
What's about it?
okay. So we're on to Dyma LLC doing business as Fire Guy.
No, but that's, no.
Did we vote? So to deny?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, then number 4, are we up to now? Okay, we're up to the one that was presented tonight. High Profile Holdings, LLC 388 West Street, Dorian, Harrington. So what is your? Okay,
Just in terms of the resolution, the whereas where you have the proposed premises is located in primarily residential, et cetera.
Yeah.
The next whereas, perhaps you just put in that they plan on doing outreach since there wasn't any outreach done.
We typically say has stated that they intend to do outreach.
Yeah.
so we should put another whereas.
Yeah, we can add that.
All right. Any other comments?
I mean, my view for both this and number 6, or the second one is like, these are the types of applicants that the program was meant to benefit. People from the neighborhood, card licensees. So these were kind of the main focus of who the state was trying to uplift through the cannabis regulations they put in place. My only concern with this one, I guess, would have been what the concern that was raised around the branding and having the appearance of a chain. So I don't know if that's something that they'd be open to, of having maybe different branding, if people think that's gonna be an issue. Because it seems like we might end up in a scenario where you have, 10 different stores with technically different owners owning 51% that are all part of a chain, and then perhaps that disadvantages the other independent stores that are just a single name. I gotta think through the economics of it a bit more, but that's sort of my one concern. But I mean, I think in terms of who the program was meant to benefit, both these applications are kind of right down the fairway for that.
I would say, I mean, this is already a licensee. This is somebody that has a dispensary already. And, I just feel like the point was to spread that out. So, and nobody is supposed to get more than one license in this first round. And it feels like this flowery company is now creating a bit of a monopoly, aren't they? And again, we don't have any way of knowing what that final TPI is gonna look like. Who's really involved in this business, because that information about financing is not there. We just don't know. Additionally, the premises may or may not be in great shape. The C of O is at 10. Without all of that done, how, is this gonna get stood up by May? I don't know. And again, the park, the lack of outreach, the MSO thing, there were just too many red flags here. Too many. And I wonder, for the applicant, because we talk about, the social and economic equity.
Yeah.
Is recommending approval for something that may not be an ideal situation. I mean, while not really our business, people can get into whatever deal they want to, but it's something that I would take into consideration as a human being. Have a comment?
I'm just saying the location stuff, it's a fixable thing as opposed to other ones, which are not. So that just raised that.
Yeah, the other ones are
It's
not,
a-
not, but you can't compare.
It's not in the past, right? That not fixable.
Oh,
But it's a storefront that's been vacant for 20 years.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's a
business that should be
That's a
there.
great point, and I think that the way, that Will phrased it with the other stuff is to just say it, I mean, that whether or not the outcome of the vote, this has been a tenet of what we've discussed as a board when we've had group discussions. And this is a situation which, it doesn't really that doesn't mean it doesn't follow, but this branding side is, that's a real concern because it goes against what's been shared with us, from the beginning on this, and that's valid to comment on. But it doesn't say you can't either, but, so I think we should look at the other things differently, but I bring that up because this is so important to the forward facing side of it, it's partnerships, and the big issue with, with another applicant that's now licensed that has other issues, and that was something at the beginning. So to say it when there's a chance to say it, wait, however, down the road.
Like down the road, like maybe offer the option of withdrawal and then come back when things are a little more clear. Is also an option. We've had people do that.
I mean, I still wasn't clear on exactly why it has to be a flowery.
And it may end up not being.
Yeah.
We don't know.
It sounds like
This is business.
So maybe we can have a view that's, this is a card applicant, this is the kind of local applicant that we're looking for.
But this is not it's not a card. There is a card dispensary under the same owner. This is an AU application. This is a general licensing application. If awarded, this person will have 2 dispensaries.
it sounds like
allowed?
Is it allowed? Maybe technically, if you do what you do and, do what you do. But this is business session, public participation is not allowed.
It's
That,
it sounds like
and
it,
there's some issues with the players here. I mean, there are just too many questions for me.
it sounds like it's Shake Shack, not Walmart. So I think I have less concerns about this than I think you do.
I think it'd be unfortunate if an application is pursued and we have issues that are not part of the judgment.
Yeah.
And then our whole thing is discounted, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just raising, what Will was saying, which is, it's a real issue. I mean, it's there. Look, everybody knows there's problems with OCM, but the spirit of it is, but look, things are written, that's how they come down and, make the determination whether we like it or not. But I think that the other elements are important to lock in. I note that it's the passage, to the parks, but at the same time, the last piece, which was so long ago.
Yeah.
And it's vacant. And if somebody wants to take that risk, which, no comment on that, but if signing.
It should occur is that this may not be the final location. And if that place turns out to be the limit, and we all pretty much know it is, then the applicant may be able to go on and operate somewhere else in our district without any oversight from us.
But my understanding of that.
We're at the period, and we are not yet clear whether the OCM is going to ask those applicants to come back to the community boards. They may just rock with an approval. So for us, since we don't know, I wonder, do we wait for a better, more solidified plan or final location?
I just want to raise issue with that point. This is why. The provisional applications are not required to send us notice because they don't have a location.
They do.
Okay.
Yes,
Hold on.
they do.
When they find a location, that's when they send the notice.
Yes.
And my point is if this location doesn't proceed, the question is, do they need to send a new notice for the new location? Because the notice is right. So then there'd be another opportunity for the board to weigh in when a new notice is provided for the.
It's different. So for the provisional do their 30-day notice after they get their location. But with the first round, the November round, they have to come with location, right? But what may happen, which we don't know the answer to yet, is that right now the OCM is taking applications and they're going community board approved, community board denied. Not because they care what we think, in my opinion, but because it's the easiest way to sort these applications right now. Right? It's one way to sort and they're using it. But what's gonna happen is if they take, I'm guessing, because we never know with OCN, if they take an approval and then that person has 30 days to cure whatever deficiencies or make whatever changes, be it TPI, be it location, they may say, well, they got an approval in this district already for a different location. We'll let them proceed in their new location since that one didn't work out. So that's the danger.
How can we evaluate any location if that's the case?
Because if somebody comes with a lease, right, this is just an LOI.
But then that would be for everybody, we have the same problem. And I just bring this up because,
All right, I'm
you know, we just
fine, as
gotta jump in.
long as there are very strong steps. And
Yeah, and I mean, I think we should use this as an opportunity to take a strong stance on the branding, franchising
And
license.
we can, but if we're taking a strong stance, then that's a denial, right? That we.
I don't think it has to
Like
be a
a
denial.
middle ground stance, yeah.
I don't think it has to.
Deny unless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we could do some
think
kind of
that's- yeah.
deny unless and say, you know, we want this to be. This has been presented as an independent local operator and we want the name of the shop and the setup to reflect that.
And, okay,
Yeah.
I'm all right.
Assuming that they.
So a deny unless with conditions, with stipulations. Are we okay with
I
that?
would be okay with
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all in favor?
Aye.
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 And then you have.
I'm not voting. I don't have to recuse, but I'm not. I choose to.
So it was passed unanimously. Okay. Moving on, our last application, which is the, Jack Luber doing business as Cousin Mary, 22 Little West 12th Street. Comments for?
Just
Also
the outreach sheet is a little unclear, right?
The outreach.
Well, just not putting the times they're closing and stuff like that.
No, we have.
No, they're on the sheet, when
Oh,
there's the signs, you know.
So I actually spoke to some of these people because I know Jack and I know a lot of the same people, a lot of people that own businesses in this neighborhood. And he did do outreach. I can actually absolutely verify that. Yes, everybody from the standard. I mean, he knows all these people. So I'm not against that, you know, verifying all of it.
I think standard deny unless with steps fine for this one.
Yeah, and the fact that he's not using the basement.
That's, I mean, that was huge
Yeah.
for me that he just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
gave up,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I would, you know, I wonder. We talked about deny unless. We have received many complaints from attorneys about the deny unless. Because the people that are, and I've talked to OCM about this. The people that are vetting the receiving the letters are resolution. They really only see the word deny. And we've also talked about this before, that we might have wanted, you know, we did approvals in the beginning, but we had great applicants in the beginning, and it was, you know, early and whatever it was. I wonder, do we have more options for our decisions that A, reflect our full position on each application, and B, more clearly relays that position to the OCN in a way that in a subject line they can see. So I don't know if that's approved with conditions, approved with prejudice.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think? I would
It's
love.
kind of like. It's like, yeah, if they're going through 1 million applications, how do we get them to actually look through
Yeah.
the stuff beyond the one word? I don't know. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So are we making this change at this meeting?
I think we stick with the deny unless for now but we should think about it. Unless you change it, I mean.
I think we should change it.
What are our neighbor boards doing?
Everybody's doing something different.
Are they using the word approval with conditions?
Would you prefer?
There's approved, there's no objection, there's approved with condition.
We just want the words together.
There are, they give steps to some, don't give steps to some, which has been fine for us because you can tell the people who are gonna need steps. Oh, sorry.
Mark Carter, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, the history of where that comes from is what's important. You know, the deny unless we were told by a liquor authority, look, if you approve, that's the word.
Right.
Like this other stuff doesn't matter. That's what they told us. So the deny unless, but the issue is that the board can just simply send a letter and ask OCM to share it with the license, you know, with the application. That's what it means. Because everybody has something different, but just to clarify for us, what does that mean? And then it's done. Because it's a part of educating the license reviewers, you know, just with all of these the mystery. But I also, I'm not sure, you know, these applications that we're hearing aren't subject to any public interest review. And so a lot of the criteria that's, you know, I couldn't be subject to an Article 78 if somebody turned down based on a community board input with something that's not a relevant factor in decision making.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is to just clearly say what we have to say, but you know, the deny unless is very useful because it says, oh, here are the outline the conditions that we came to mutual agreement on, and therefore there's not an exception to this or a total denial, and it just reflects that. You know, and then it's up to them to take that into account. We're advisory. I'm just communicating how that is. And if we want to spend hours and hours coming up with another process, you know, that certainly can happen. But we just want to expose how our board does it and just let them.
But what's suitable for SLA is not necessarily suitable for cannabis. Chris, do you want to speak to that?
Oh, yeah, it's consumption lounges, right?
It's consumption lounges, like that's where that would come into play, but these are retail businesses.
I would just say, I mean, I think I'm comfortable, like whatever, since you have the most interaction with OCM and who is reviewing it, like I'm comfortable going with whatever you think is the most effective way to get our point across. And so like whatever you think, honestly, like I'm on board for that. Because you probably are in the best position to sort of educate them on what we're doing, right? So I would defer to Mar on the wording.
Gentlemen,
So we're just gonna leave it as deny unless at this meeting?
I mean, that's already
No,
no,
that's
that's
not
not what
What do you think?
Then what are
I
we
think
doing?
that we need like tier, like I think we need approved. I think we need an approved. And I think we've used approved and there's precedence for it for retail.
All right.
Just cannabis consumption will be something different. I think we need an approved. We need an approved with conditions or an approved with prejudice.
Right.
Might better tell that story. What do we think? Approve.
Approve with
conditions?
stipulations or conditions is easy enough, especially because like if we're actually concerned about OCM being able to read, then some of this is kind of like.
But that's what's gonna go on the line, right?
I understand. I was just saying,
Conditional
yeah.
approve with stipulation.
License.
First thing they read is conditional.
Yeah,
This, every license that's issued in New York State, whether it's liquor or this, the base license allows you full operation within the hours that are allowed under the law. It is only when you introduce stipulations or conditions and that everybody agrees that they're put on the license, that the license is not restricted. Now, the difference in consumption and dispensaries, liquor stores is not written into the law. They need to advise the community board, so there's input on the or cannabis. It is, and so that's where the introduction of cannabis, you know, being reviewed by community boards through the dispensary. But it is important to you guys to, you know, conditions on the license with hours. And approval is you get to use your license fully. And that's why the liquor authority came back to us with this. And so even with approved with conditions, they still have full use of the license presumably because there's no mechanism to introduce those conditions. So I just throw that out there on the license, because that's what we're asking for, is that the
You're
conditions
saying that there's
are on the
no,
license.
are you saying we can't enforce stipulations?
I didn't say that. What I said is that they have to be a condition of the license in order to be enforceable with the Office of Cannabis Control. But stipulations themselves are not a condition of the license unless they're actually put on the license. If you approve something, it's approved, they have full use of their license.
Oh, that's why we always have to do a denial.
Right, and that's because the way this just rolls through.
How do we really convey the nuances between different applications? Because for that matter, everything's a denial. Just so we have the opportunity.
Well, we've done some outright denies too. So not everything's denials, but.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell the story between an okay application and a great application. And how is the OCM going to tell the difference?
Well, maybe we can continue to use deny unless in most cases, and ones that we think are truly outstanding, we can do an approve. And that's basically saying we truly trust that as long as they operate in the law, we don't need to give them any specific guidance.
I would be okay with that.
The way it worked, the liquor license, we met with them us, but we were all on the same page. What's happening is we're having a conversation about something. They're the issuers of the license. They're the ones who are approving them. They're the ones that push on the license. It simply requires the time to meet with them to hash this out so that.
So what you're
everybody's on the
recommending
same
we do,
page.
meet with some,
So.
Absent that, we communicate what it all means.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think unfortunately, like if they're not taking the time to read through every application, it's gonna be very hard to communicate the nuances.
What about like deny until conditions? It's
Because
way
we
more
have-
words.
We have this much
Yeah.
time to weigh in at all, and
Good.
then your chances are
Yeah.
up. Like, look what
Deny
happened with
unless it's
Rico Pat.
I think we should, for now, we should stick with deny unless and
yeah,
we can try to think of a better way to do it, but I can't think of one offhand.
So we can include letters with the nuance. And that
Sure.
doesn't require
Yeah.
voting, that's just
I think you just
Susan in the chair.
should start asking for meetings about this.
Yeah.
And.
Fantastic.
I agree.
That's that,
Yeah, I'm gonna send a letter anyway with all the nuances.
maybe even.
Because we had to do a lot of deny and letters that should have been discussed.
Even the district managers can try, I mean, this is something, this is not
Yeah.
new to us, right, obviously.
No, not at all.
So it should just be,
any new business? Did we vote on the last one?
Well, we didn't vote on the last one.
Did we? I thought we.
I
We
don't,
didn't, and that's when we started talking about if we wanted to approve, the conditions are approved without.
I would like to do that as an improvement. I mean, it's a solid operator.
You wanna vote on it?
And just, not that this has anything to do with anything, but if that one gets approved by OCM, there's no more. Why not? No more 69 games for it. It goes away. We think about, good operators and what we want in the neighborhood.
Okay. So you want us to re-vote on Jack Luber?
I don't think we voted on that one.
All right, so, okay,
So are we wait, do you want to do approve with conditions instead of deny unless? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not voting.
You can't vote on the second
we
one?
can't vote on this one?
Thought you
Jack
can.
Luber?
Oh, yes, I can, but I'm gonna just not vote on anything. So
Okay.
You guys can decide, but if I were voting, I would
Approve.
approve that one.
So, all right, so,
I'm fine to stick with deny unless for that.
yeah, I was gonna say until we get more clarification.
Yeah,
Anthony?
Aye, so I'm gonna do deny unless, which means approval.
Okay.
Until we get more clarification, so that passed, And no new business? All right, so I was gonna get a motion to adjourn this meeting.
so moved.
Again, aye. All in favor, aye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Did you sign in?
Because I have to get this resolution out right now.